President Trump's second term in office has been marked by a flurry of executive orders and a flurry of legal cases. More than 100 lawsuits have been filed against the administration and its executive actions. But immigration issues are setting up the biggest flashpoint. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was wrongly deported to an El Salvadorian prison and must be returned to the U.S. That ruling coming on the heels of a DOJ attorney telling another court Abrego Garcia was mistakenly deported due to an administrative error. Now the administration taking a different position.
He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador.
Okay, so do you still
He's
believe
an illegal
he is a
alien
member of
from
MS?
El Salvador?
Abrego Garcia will never be a Maryland father. He will never live in the United States of America again.
So is the president openly defying the Supreme Court?
I think we have to say yes.
Professor Jason Stanley is an expert on fascism.
He's openly defying the courts and promising to go even further.
A president defying the court is remarkable, but not entirely unprecedented in American history.
Andrew Jackson had a sometimes contentious relationship with the Supreme Court.
In the 1830s, the Supreme Court heard cases related to land disputes between Cherokee Nation and the state of Georgia. The Supreme Court in Worcester v. Georgia ruled that Cherokees owned their land. Georgia ignored the ruling. President Andrew Jackson did nothing to make the state comply. And before the end of the decade, the U.S. Army entered Georgia's Cherokee Nation, forcibly removing residents in what we now know as the Trail of Tears.
We have had constitutional crises before.
Lindsay Chervinsky is a presidential historian and director of the George Washington Presidential Library.
Those moments, there's a question about whether or not the Constitution will actually work to check nefarious forces, to provide outcomes for accountability and transparency, and whether or not people can use the constitutional mechanisms provided to them to get out of that.
It might make you wonder, has the Supreme Court ever had power over a president? Or has it always been more of a gentleman's agreement that presidents would respect U.S. courts' rulings?
There are two key enforcement mechanisms for the relationship between the Supreme Court and the president. The first is public will and this good faith expectation that actors in both branches will generally do their best to uphold the rule of law and to follow the rule of law. The second piece is Congress. I think there are a lot of people who are asking those questions right now about, does the Constitution provide appropriate methods of getting through a very difficult moment? And I think probably every American citizen has to answer that for themselves.
And Ellison Barber joins us now. Ellison, I mean, picking up where that conversation left off, fascinating conversation, but a lot of questions there about the Garcia case. And yet, are we seeing a clash similar to the time of Andrew Jackson play out in real time? I mean, the big question for me is, you know, the Supreme Court is not supposed to be political, and yet this is a 6-3 court, right? Conservatives versus liberals. Does that play into it, or is this very similar to Andrew Jackson and the Trail of Tears, I guess?
Well, I mean, look, when you look back, you have to remember we are talking about things that happened at the 1800s, the times, the court, all of that has changed a lot since then. So in some ways, it's not an exact comparison, right? But sometimes you can get little bits of clues from history to understand where we are. And in terms of this big picture question of what would happen if a president in this day and age says, well, we're not going to listen to the court's ruling, Andrew Jackson in some ways gives us an example of that. There was also an instance in the early 1800s as well related to Thomas Jefferson and the Embargo Act. If you go back and look at that, it was 1807 when, at Jefferson's insistence, Congress passed the Embargo Act, which most historians will tell you was wildly destructive to the United States and our economy at the time. Ultimately, it went to the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice at the time, William Johnson, said the president, Thomas Jefferson, had exceeded his authority there. In a very, at the time, unprecedented move, Thomas Jefferson had his own attorney general write a rebuttal to the court, and ultimately what happened was, in the standoff, Thomas Jefferson basically won. That policy stayed in place until he left office a couple of years ago. But we did get a rebuttal from the Supreme Court to the Attorney General, where Justice Johnson wrote in part that what had happened here, he said, it was not that the executive have done right, but that the judiciary had no power to prevent their wrongdoing. And in some ways, you have some historians and experts saying, hey, are we in a similar moment right now? As you heard that historian say there, that's for every American to decide decide on their own. But when it comes to how ultimately an executive or president is forced to adhere to what the courts say, there is historical precedent where some presidents have decided not to, and it was sort of just a stalemate and carried on, and either Congress can step in or the people protest in ways we saw during Vietnam, where it makes it untenable for people to remain in that position. But there have been moments in our history that have been similar to what's happening right now, but it's been a very long time. But it's just worth considering the totality of it as we ask ourselves those questions as reporters and as a nation.
Yeah, quite the power play there. Ellison Barber, thank you so much. And here.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.